A total of 15,199 people accessed emergency accommodation in November, a rise of 233 the previous month. There has also been a small rise in the number of children who are homeless, and some 4,658 children were in emergency accommodation between the 18th of November and the 24th of November, an increase of 13 on the months previous. And the number of homeless people here in Kildare has increased. 146 adults have been registered as homeless in the county. Over in Wicklow, it's 69, which is actually down 4. Well, on the line is Chairman of Tiglin, Aubrey McCarthy, who's also running for Shannon Eyre. And good morning to you, Aubrey, and thanks for joining us this morning. A shame to see, and to you, a shame to see that these figures have surpassed 15,000. And as we always say, they're not just figures, they're people.
Unfortunately, we're saying Happy New Year. We're texting in Happy New Year for competitions, but for the 15,200 people, it's not a Happy New Year. And unfortunately, these figures are only going one way. And we have consistently seen them rising. And we're saying, well, it's not going to go any further. The government are making plans, and definitely it's going to be dealt with. I remember speaking to the joint houses of the Oireachtas in 2016, and I put forward a plan for a payment to try and, it was a particular, like an accommodation recognition payment, and they told me it couldn't be done. I believed it would be able to sort out a large cohort of homelessness for people with substance abuse and also mental health issues, and they told me it couldn't be done. And then the Ukrainian war broke out, and now we have the accommodation recognition payment for Ukrainians in Ireland. So I think when the joint-up thinking happens, it can be done. But as a society, I think we have become a bit desensitized to the figures. And as you mentioned, each figure represents a person. The children, as you mentioned, is 4,658. Like, that is phenomenal. So if you can imagine that child on Christmas morning, there was no Christmas tree in their hostel room. There was no Christmas tree, Christmas presents, etc., in that hostel room. So it's a big misnomer. We need to deal with it. And on a daily basis in the Lighthouse in Dublin, which is my homeless cafe, my charity that I'm involved in leads, Tiglin, on a daily basis I see the faces. I see the people who have perhaps been failed by the system and have been promised, but it's like the carrot on a stick. It gets further away.
Yeah, and those figures of 15,000 we're talking about emergency accommodation doesn't take into account those people who might be rough sleeping or couch surfing. And it's, obviously it's something that we should always have in the back of our mind, but especially when you're looking out the window this morning and you see the frost and the ice and the snow around Kildare, you do spare a thought for those people. And it's worth remembering, while we might complain that the road is a bit slippy out in the garden, that there are people having to sleep rough in those conditions.
Well, one of the weather reports said, for those with animals and also motorists, please be careful. And I'm thinking, with the hat that I wear in the Lighthouse, I'm dealing with humans who are out in the street. And one of our service users, a client, a wonderful guy, he passed away 2 years ago in Gardiner Street, and he was found in a doorway with a sleeping bag and multiple layers of clothing. He had several coats on him, but still he died of hypothermia. So we are dealing with life and death situations. Last year, we were expecting a cold spell, but it didn't happen. But we got these special Arctic sleeping bags. So we got 10 of those, but they're €300 each. And they're for people who perhaps don't want accommodation, whether that's for substance abuse or mental health issues, but they decide to sleep outside. So we need to bear in mind that happens too, and to make sure there are facilities such as the Arctic sleeping bags available. I will say County Kildare have taken on an initiative initiative with Homeless Care and Tiglin through Jigginstown Manor, and it's a phenomenal success. We've had, since we started, we've had, I know there was 33 residents that have gone on to full-time housing, and then we're full again with 12 further residents at the moment. But that's an initiative to get people that are homeless in County Kildare, mainly youth homeless, to get them back into the workplace, back into housing, back into the society as productive members. And it has worked phenomenally. So it's the joint-up thinking by NGOs, the likes of Homeless Care, the likes of Tiglin and Kildare County Council that puts together something that can change the homeless figure and can also change the way people progress. Yeah. We do the same in Wicklow through a facility called Carrigeeden with Wicklow County Council.
And that's great work, Aubrey, and that's greatly appreciated. But does there not need to be more joined-up thinking from the government? You know, I know that is part of the role that you have, and other organisations like Focus Ireland and the Simon Community and all of those charities and organisations are doing the same work. But are you not looking at the government and saying, give us a bit more of a dig out here?
Well, in the recommendation from the Housing Commission report, which was recent, they said the establishment of a housing delivery oversight executive. Long old word, but basically that means get the right people around the table and focus on this. And I think Darragh O'Brien, the minister, said it was good, but he dismissed it as not something to do now. I think that's a mistake. I think it has to be done. And even for a limited period, mobilise all of the efforts. Do it for 5 to 7 years, a programme that delivers housing. And I think you look at the Irish, when COVID happened, we rolled out everything. My business is transport, as you know. What I did as a transporter, we cleared out the hospitals, the different wards, turned them into COVID wards, and we really focused on it, and it worked. We did the same when the Ukrainian war happened. We were able to accept 100,000 people into Ireland and house them. So the fact we've 15,199 on the homeless register, I think this could be done. The figures are huge, but they're not that huge when it comes to the 100,000 Ukrainians. So it can be done, but it needs priority, it needs joint-up thinking, and it needs the housing delivery executive.
All right, Chairman of Tiglin from